My 10-year-old son, James, was supposed to be enjoying his after-school swim club. Instead, his classmates held his head down, pinning him to the pool's suction drain. I dove in like a madman when I saw the water blooming with a sickening crimson, but by the time I dragged him out, the brutal force of the drain had already torn his face beyond recognition. He choked up a final pool of dark blood and went completely still. The ringleader, an arrogant boy, sneered without a shred of remorse. So what? I'm a minor. The law can't touch me anyway. Besides, I couldn't stand him. Now that he's dead, nobody is in my way for first place. His father tossed a credit card at my feet with a lazy, patronizing shrug. There is $100 grand on there. That should be more than enough to buy your boy's cheap life. Grief-stricken, I demanded justice, but my wife, Audrey, held me back. They're just kids, Lucas. Our boy is already gone. Do you really want to ruin another child's entire future? My relentless crusade only managed to land the boy a brief stint in juvenile hall, a far cry from the justice my son deserved. Consumed by despair, I swallowed an entire bottle of sleeping pills by my son's grave. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the very day I was supposed to drop James off at the pool. Instantly, I grabbed his hand and dragged him back to the car. We were going home. But even with James safe, the tragedy of the pool still unfolded. Only this time, it claimed a different boy. We had left in such a hurry that James's dry clothes were still in the locker room. I told him to wait in the car while I ran back inside, intending to also warn the facility manager about the dangerous suction drain. But the moment I stepped into the natatorium, a chorus of cruel laughter echoed off the tiled walls. Look at him. Doesn't he look like a dead fish? Move, you idiot. Why aren't you moving? Ha ha ha. 3 boys were laughing hysterically. The tallest, Mason, was stepping heavily on a patch of blue fabric underwater. Seeing that familiar shade of blue, identical to James's swimsuit, and the faint pink cloud rising in the water made my heart stop. If I hadn't known for a fact that James was sitting safely in the car, I would have collapsed right there. In my past life, Mason had targeted James because my son beat him academically, and Mason wanted to crush him in the pool too. But who was this boy, and why were they doing this to him? I didn't have time to think. I rushed forward, shouting at the top of my lungs. Stop! What the hell are you doing? Mason looked up, raised an eyebrow, and took a casual step back. Oh look, the old dog's here to protect his pup. Game's over, boys. The other 2 boys jumped back like startled rabbits, refusing to look me in the eye. Even though they had released him, the immense suction held the boy's face flat against the drain grate. His limbs floated limply. In my past life, James had been trapped exactly like this. I had dove in to save him, but the suction was too strong to fight. By the time the staff turned off the filtration system, the golden window had slammed shut, and my son died in my arms. The blue swimsuit, the medium cropped hair, the slight build. I kept telling myself James was safe, but my hands shook uncontrollably. Drawing on my grim experience, I screamed at the nearby lifeguard. What are you standing there for? There's a kid stuck to the drain. Shut off the filtration system now. The lifeguard finally snapped out of his daze and scrambled to call the control room. A few agonizing minutes later, I pulled the boy's limp body from the water. His face was swollen and distorted, completely unrecognizable. He wasn't breathing, and there was no pulse. Mason stood nearby with his arms crossed, a smug smirk playing on his lips. Mister, he said he could hold his breath for 3 minutes. We were just helping him. Helping him? My vision went red. I slapped him hard across the face. You call pinning him to a drainage grate helping him? Mason clutched his cheek, glaring at me with venom. It was just a game. Who knew he'd be such a wimp? How dare you hit me? Do you know who my mother is? She'll destroy your whole family. I knew exactly who his mother was, and it only made me want to tear that arrogant look off his face. His mother had married a useless parasite named Richard, and together, they had raised this little monster. A game?